Hi Nick, great to see you.
Hey James, yeah, good to see you too. Good morning.
Thank you. Well, it's morning for me. It's evening for you over in Japan.
Yeah, overseas, yeah. So coming up to what 6:30 now, and still a bit to do, but yeah, it's been a great day. It's really warm out there. It's about 34 at the moment, so bit of a scorcher,
Oh,
but
blimey,
yeah, bit of a hot
good
one.
stuff. Well, listen, thank you so much for taking some time out to record
Mm,
this testimonial for me because as we're going to get into, you've had massive success on taking 100 days off
yeah,
the booze. It's had a
yeah,
huge impact on you. I'm going to ask you all about that in a
yeah.
second. And
Mm,
I want to use this video as an opportunity to try and help people who are sort of on the fence about changing their relationship with alcohol. Perhaps they've looked at coaching, they're not really sure if it's for them. Perhaps worried
sure.
about speaking to some random stranger they found on social media. Think
Yeah.
that it's going to be a scam or something. So, social proof and hearing from people who've really done it is really, really important. So, you've done 100 days
Yeah.
last week, it was. So,
Yeah, last week, yeah.
you've kept on going. So, clearly, it's agreed with you. So, if you wouldn't mind, perhaps you could take me back to over 100 days ago when we
Mm.
first met. What was your relationship with alcohol like at that point?
Yeah, it's funny, and thanks for that. Like, it's funny, it have to be a little bit over 100 days. But I look back today because I knew we were having this call. So I look back today in the commute to the message I first sent you because I
Oh,
think
did you?
it's really interesting to see, what kicked it all off and what was I saying to you when I was, obviously trying to work with you and sort of say, like, this is where I am at in life. And I remember when I first sort of spoke to you about that text because I was embarrassed about it because I texted you whilst I was actually in a bit of a drunken state. And you can see in the text that there's all these words and spellings and grammatical errors. You just think, good grief, that's where I was 100 days ago. There's absolutely none of that in between. But where was I 100 days ago is very different to now. And I suppose I was the type of drinker that would drink alone. And I would
Hmm.
drink alone for a couple of key reasons at that time, I suppose, either a sadness that had happened or even something to celebrate. And I would use this time to go to pubs maybe by myself, start out that way, but there'd be other individuals there. And I would go and talk to them. And you just mentioned I live in Japan, so I'd practice a bit of Japanese and I'd sort of almost use that as an excuse to stay out. And I'd go from pub to pub. I was the type of drinker that sort of searched for different types of beers. And uh, I was a little bit connected to a social application where you can rate your drinks and you can kind
Uh-huh.
of say what flavor profile and you can see what other people are drinking in your area and you can see where, the tap lists are and things like this.
Uh-huh.
So I was really connected into that. And probably I was, honestly, twice a week, mostly once, but sometimes twice a week, that type of drinker. So it wasn't an everyday affair for me.
Hmm.
But when I went out drinking, I would spend, 3, 4 hours, maybe a little bit more. And I'd get through, a lot of drinking that time. At at that point in my life as well, I was, bringing home conversations as a result of drinking to my wife that I felt very embarrassed by.
Hmm.
And I would maybe even do some things at home that I think that without the drink I wouldn't do. So at that point in time, sort of 100 days ago, when I'd obviously found you on Instagram and I'd sent you this message, and I can read that message today and sort of see exactly where I was in my mind on the train. Probably even saying to my wife, "Yeah, I'm just on the train home," but I would stop off for another because I would use this excuse to go for another beer.
Yeah, I can
That's
resonate.
where I was, and I needed to stop, James, because as you know, my wife and I started a family last year, so we've got a 1-year-old daughter,
Uh-huh.
um, who's just a wonderful human being, and I really really was conscious to be different for my wife and for my kid, and be a very sort of different person. And I just hit that wall where I'd just gone, this just cannot continue. Like me going out this once a week, maybe twice a week, waking up the next day. If it was a Thursday, I'd be waking up on a Friday at work. I would be moving my meetings around to avoid them because I knew that I couldn't perform in the way that I would without the drink.
Mm.
So yeah, a lot of those things really, really shone 100 days ago. And obviously, as we'll talk about today, the great removal of all these embarrassments and situations and just getting back to my authentic self, which is just the most wonderful thing that could have happened to me.
I think that what you said will resonate with a lot of people with regards to having young children and feeling and, and a partner
Mm.
and feeling that something needs to change. And it's strange when you listening to you talk about it in these terms because we've worked together for 15 weeks. I don't know if it feels the same for you, but it feels like such a long time ago that we first started because
Yeah,
the difference that you've
yeah,
experienced over that time has been really really phenomenal. It's
yeah.
so before we
Mm.
actually met, had you tried anything in the past, maybe to sort of make some changes, or was this very much a first
Yeah.
attempt?
So when my wife was pregnant, we went up to the north of Japan where her parents are from, and we stayed up there for 10 weeks actually. So in the middle of nowhere, just some rice fields. It's 10 weeks, your local shops are 45-minute walk away. So quite isolated, right? And during that time, obviously with the baby incoming, I really tried to make a concerted effort not to drink. The challenging part is that her family do drink, and almost every day actually. But I really did abstain with the baby coming until the baby was delivered and probably a couple of weeks after. And I thought, I'm doing quite well here. I'm probably up to 3 weeks or 3 weeks to a month. I'm doing quite well. But as time ebbed on and I would go out to the local shop and I thought, well, why not? I'll have some, beer time to myself and I can just relax and, um,
Reward.
yeah, a little bit of a
I've
reward,
earned
right?
this.
That's how I felt, yeah. And
Yeah,
I've earned
fair
the
enough.
next one as well, and the one on the way home, and then that's how it was. So the period of life that I had since moving to Japan, I came as a very sober person because I was driving every day in the UK. I moved from the UK to Japan, and so I first came to Japan really with a very little interest in alcohol and beer as a drink, which I certainly came to enjoy a few years later. And I suppose in the last, where are we now? 2026. I suppose in that last sort of 6 years, avoiding that 100 days we've just had together, I haven't been without alcohol on a weekly basis, right? So there was just that three to 4 weeks of being up with my wife, preparing for the baby, enjoying all of the delivery, and seeing this happy, wonderful person come into the world. But then, yeah, then I sort of said I've earned this, and then very quickly when I took a trip back to Tokyo, even just to do some things at the local city hall that I needed to do. I spent a night here, and I remember that night being very much a let's go and see the familiar pub surrounding night, and get on the train very hungover, going back up to the north of Japan to go see my wife, and she didn't know any of the worse for that, right? And
Mm.
that again is another story that I'm very pleased that is no longer something I'll be continuing and is part of my past, right?
So so for a lot of people, they'll look at 100 days and think, "Oh, that sounds really,
Mm.
really tough. I'm pretty sure I couldn't do that because it's
Mm.
it's a big deal." Have you found it? How hard have you found it?
Yeah, I mean that definitely changes the narrative over the time. I can understand that feeling, right? When you just look at something and you go, 100 of anything seems quite big, really, in those terms, doesn't it?
You're a
Um,
centurion.
yeah, I'm literally
You
100
got
not
that?
out, right?
Yeah,
Cricketing
definitely.
terms.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, But I will probably come on to it as well, but I think it is part of your process and part of your method, of course, definitely to help you to see, the little things at the time. Small progression means a big thing over time. And
Mm.
when you get into habits and routines, when you start to see yourself emerge and change, and you begin to realize some of the benefits that I'm sure we'll talk about as well, the 100 days for me then became a really, really great thing as a target, right? It didn't seem such a big, maybe the first 2 weeks you're looking at it going, really, 100 days, you sure? But as you get into the program, as you realize yourself returning, for me, it was very much that, right? I said to you, being my authentic self and being, yeah, just being back to my not best, but being me.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It's all
you
about growth.
can you can absolutely see that as a driving goal, as an incentive, as a motivator, right?
Mm.
So I think the story changes as you go through the program.
I think about the sort of the first couple of weeks, and it's quite true for most people. Sometimes the first couple of weeks takes a little bit of
Mm,
adjustment, but then around kind
mm.
of 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks, people tend to just hit a bit of a groove, and then they're just off.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
remember that being very much the case for you. I think the first
yeah,
couple of weeks you were thinking, "Oh, this is going to be really, really tough," and then something just clicked,
yeah.
and it's like you lock the keys, you lock the door. I'm like, that's it.
Mm.
And I kind of didn't really have any doubt whatsoever you were going to do the 100
Yeah, it was
days.
awesome. I remember that conversation. It was awesome.
Yeah.
You're really you're lit up today, Nick. You're like
You
I
did. You got on a
joined.
call, and I could just see by looking at
Yeah,
you
I
something
remember
had
that
just
conversation.
tripped.
I was so happy to hear that, and it was so brilliant because you know, again, we talk about some of the changes, but body language
Mm.
at work and people saying, my wife immediately saying, "Gosh, you look so different. You sound so different. You talk about this very differently now." And body language is one of the things that I say really changed early for me. But yeah, we'll come on to all those things. But
So what? So tell me about some of the things that changed then. Some of the things that you
mm.
noticed that really have made a difference over this 100 days. What are some of the wins?
Yeah, we talked a little bit earlier about how I came to you in the first time 100 days ago, and where I was really struggling was mental space and how I was thinking about alcohol even when it wasn't in front of me. And I
Mm.
think this application where I was just unconsciously going to my phone and looking at tap lists and beer lists and what was one of my acquaintances on this application drunk recently, and maybe I should go. It was just fueling this whole environment in my head that was really difficult to live with, was distracting me from life really, but certainly from work, certainly from my wife, and was making me already think about the Thursday or the Friday. I'd be there on the Monday checking the app, thinking, oh, Thursday or Friday I could go there and drink this, right? So I was spending so much time thinking about thinking about drinking and thinking about alcohol, even by myself, right? That the removal of that, the freedom, the control. I suppose that's part of the words that we use, isn't it? It's the control and being able to make that choice. Whereas before, I think that how I'd set myself up with these applications and things, I was giving myself very little choice because I was just fueling it all the
Mm.
time with the thought of it. So I could be having a conversation. I said to you, I could be having a conversation with someone. Back in my head, I was already thinking about, you know, a beer or something that I was looking forward to on a Thursday, and you're not at that point, you're not present in the moment listening to the
No.
person. You're already halfway with your foot in the door of the pub. And those to have that just completely removed from my I cannot express it's I mean I know that we talked before about skydiving a little bit because I did one in Cairns, but to have that change from when you're free falling to then the parachute goes, to have all the noise and then absolute silence, it's a little bit like that in a
Yeah, I
sense,
like that.
because I
I
had
love that
so
analogy.
much noise in my head about alcohol, about beer, about going to these places, about rating. So now I can't imagine. I just can't imagine it in a sense. It's say 100 days ago, but
Yeah.
it's such a change for me and how I can attend to my life and how I can sort of just do things and be different. I mean, my work conversations are so much better. I articulate things much better than I used to. I pay attention much more than I
Mm.
used to. Um, which
I think.
it sounds quite dramatic, but it's real. It's really real for me.
Oh, definitely. I think one of the things that that we've spoken about as well that have been a real massive win is the shift in terms of your mental health. You were struggling a little bit at the beginning, and I can just every time I see you, you're just happier. Every single time, every call we have,
Yeah,
every single
yeah.
week, every single fortnight,
Smiling.
whenever I see you on Sunday, you just look happier and you're just lit up, and that's just the
Mm.
most wonderful thing to witness. And
Yeah,
the impact that it's had on your relationship with your wife and your daughter, which is already
yeah.
really good, but what you spoke about there about being really present, I think that's the thing that a lot of people
Mm.
underestimate, is it just gives you this kind of sense of calm and this presence, and that's really wonderful and really powerful, I think. A lot of people kind of worry that when they stop drinking that life's going to be boring and it's going to be empty and it's going to be
Oh yeah,
joyless. Has
oh yeah.
that been the case for you?
Uh, can I laugh at
I
that?
mean, obviously, it's a bit of a loaded question because I know what you're going to
Um,
say, but it's true. Most people do think
oh
that.
God, quite the opposite really
It
for
is the
me.
opposite, right?
And yeah, and it really is. And I can understand anybody watching this, listening to this, who is maybe struggling and but realizes that they want to make the change, finds it hard to see that, because they're in a moment in time where they just haven't come across that part for a while in their life, and
Mm,
maybe they're in a position that I was in where your mind is just in the wrong place and it's thinking about things that are a distraction, right? When the distraction is gone, as I just talked about, there's you just realize things, and a very simple pleasure for me was I get off a station earlier and I walk home. And it used to be that I would get off that station earlier because I knew the pub routes and I'd go
yeah,
and
I remember.
explore. And I intentionally, in that first couple of weeks where maybe it's a little bit of the challenging phase, because you're in the
Mm,
early
it's a bit
phase of
new.
change, that I intentionally chose different roads to walk that were not the pub routes. And I discovered all these little shops and nooks and crannies and things around the city that I hadn't seen before. And I've carried that on, but now I do go the pub routes, but I just don't look at the pubs, or I just walk past them. I sort of smile to myself and go, yeah, I just don't need that. But I can just enjoy walking home at night and seeing, right? I just see the park and I look up at the sky, and maybe there's some stars because I work late sometimes. But that simple pleasure in life to really be aware has been incredible. So have I missed anything? Do I miss out? Do I lose enjoyment? Quite the opposite. I mean, that's just a very small example, but I spoke to you about it the other day about extra goals I have from here and getting back into photography and really
Yeah.
photographing one of the most wonderful cities for
Oh,
for
incredible. So
photography.
lucky.
Yeah, at night time is really really lovely, and all the sort of steam coming out of the wonderful restaurants and bars, and you get a really nice contrast of colors and neon lights and
Oh,
whatever you
I'd love
like
to see
here
it.
in Japan. Yeah, no, please, uh, anyone who's watching, yeah, please come over. But yeah, because again, the headspace for me was free. I could just see life differently, and I can just enjoy things that I'd
That's
lost
fine.
really. Yeah.
So, do you have any sense of missing out at all, or anything? And you've made a big decision. You've
Can't say it
spoken
too. I
about.
mean, yeah, I can see how other people perhaps who also drink not alone like I was, but drinking in groups, have friendship groups, they worry maybe they would have difficult conversations facing them or awkward conversations facing them where their friends might say, well, hang on, you're not drinking and put some peer pressure on. Maybe they just say, well, if you're not coming to the pub, I'm not, it's a different kind of friendship could be created, right? I can understand that. For me, I do have friends that I used to go out with occasionally. They've just been brilliant about it. I think there was the first time that I said to them, "Yeah, I'm coming out, guys, but I'm not going to drink tonight." There was probably like a shake of the head and raise of an eyebrow, like, what do you mean?" But when I actually explained it to them and what I'm doing, they've been really great about it. And we've
That's
gone for
great.
coffees and lunches, and we still keep in touch. And another part of life that I enjoyed whilst I was drinking was actually getting into brewing and sort of the understanding of how
Hmm.
beer gets brewed. So I sort of took it a little bit outside the glass or outside the pub, or whatever you want to say, and more into the industry, just in case it was something I wanted to explore more from a career point of view. So I made connections with a lot of the sort of brewers and tap lists and tap rooms around me. Um, but they've been really, really supportive and good about it too, and that's their business. But some of them have actually started thinking, yeah, what non-alcohol drinks can we have? And very funny. Like I've said to you that in Japan, it's not really a great market at the moment for non-alcohol beers and
Big
things.
big opportunity there, Nick.
But
Big untapped market
yeah,
there.
but the guy close to me who's really familiar with us from 4 or 5 years since we moved to the neighborhood. He got in some non-alcohol beers just for me
Yeah,
last
that's
week.
lovely.
Yeah, and Mika said, "Look, he's just posted this for you." Like, so, it again. The things that I thought I would be worried about, just
Yeah.
just absolutely not at all.
Yeah, I think you can look at that really broadly across a lot of things. Actually, the things that we tell ourselves about, oh, I couldn't, alcohol. I have to have alcohol for that. I have to have alcohol for this. Everyone's going to call me
Mm,
out in the pub if I'm not drinking, and all of this stuff. And they're all just stories that we tell ourselves. And then when we actually put it to the test, we're like, huh, wasn't what I thought. And that's true of so many things with alcohol. And I think particularly when you get to, our kind of
mm,
age, around sort of 40s, most people are thinking. getting a bit sick of this alcohol lark. 'Cause I just feel dreadful. It's not the same as it was when I was
Yeah,
younger.
yeah.
And
Mm,
I honestly believe most people have that opinion, have that sense, that feeling in midlife. But very few people actually put their hand up and go, you know what, I'm going to press pause for a little
mm,
while.
mm.
But when they do, other people are supportive, and and quite often they start to follow because they see the difference in the person of how much happier they are, how much healthier they look, how much weight they lose. Their body language that you've spoken
It's
about
been
earlier,
my
and it's
experience.
infectious. It really is
Mm.
infectious. So, so yeah, to me that's the big thing. What I'm just thinking about going back to
Mm.
the first kind of couple of weeks because there definitely was a shift. I think from maybe like within that
Yeah,
first month. What was
yeah,
it? What was it that specifically changed? Was there anything that we did in coaching that kind of shifted your mindset of how you felt in the first kind of couple of weeks? Where I think it was a bit of a struggle. Was there any kind of
yeah.
conversations that we had? Any perhaps techniques that I used? Any tools? Any parts of the program that you felt really helped move you from those difficult first couple of weeks to just hitting your stride in that sort of week 3, week 4 period where after that you were just off and it was just never in doubt.
Yeah, I think two things definitely stand out. Within the first couple of weeks, we went through an exercise together, which was almost a seesaw approach, and I think you sort of said, "What do I stand to gain by continuing? What do I stand to gain by stopping?" And it's really interesting, isn't it, the number of topics you can come up for both sides of those seesaw. But um, that was something that we did in rough together, a bit like a call like today, and we sort of showed it round, and we went through it together. And I took that rough and I made it a nice printout. I printed
Oh,
two, and
you've
I've
got it in
got
your
one.
fridge, haven't you? Yeah.
Well, it's by the exit, the door that sort of exits to the house. So I've got one right there every morning. That's still there today, and it's every morning it's there. And I highlighted the key the key elements that really resonated to me about what my drive and my goal would be about, if I stop this, these are the things I seek to gain.
Mm.
And I've got the other one by my desk. So I see these things every day permanently in my life. And I'm not sure when I'll take them down, if I ever will,
It's powerful.
because yeah, because they really are. Again, it sounds so simple, but when you put it on paper and you spend time to actually just really think about what are you standing to gain by continuing with what you have? What do you stand to gain by stopping? Um, it was so one-sided. And the
Mm.
things that we looked at that we stood to gain, if I look at them now, and you said this to me at the time, you said, when you look at these later on, it'd be interesting to see how you think about them. And I was talking about friendship because I was getting lonely and I was creating friends in the pub and things like this, and taste and all these, and it is amazing when I look through that list now, and I probably couldn't put a single finger on one and say that still makes sense because you find yourself actually going, that was kind of a false friendship. In any case, it was a person I met in a pub for an hour. I still couldn't tell you his name today. I couldn't even tell you what he looked like. Right. And taste. I honestly have just moved on so far from what I was drinking now, and you find alternatives and you find other
Yeah.
things, and you just enjoy going out for a nice dessert or a
Yeah,
cafe
I started eating a lot of
experience.
dessert as well, actually, when I
Yeah,
started drinking.
yeah, it's so
A
true.
lot more. You got more bandwidth, right? Why not? Treat yourself.
Yeah, yeah, but it's great to treat your wife as well. Whereas before you would have spent that amount of money in a pub and then some, you're
Mm.
going out and you're creating experiences. You're going out with your wife, and you're maybe going off at the weekend when you don't have a hangover to explore places, and you find all these lovely, lovely things to eat that you wouldn't even be in that realm of Japan because you're nursing a hangover at home and you don't really feel like going out today. So the number one thing in the first 2 weeks is this balance that has stayed with me, that shows me what I seek to gain, and I highlighted those things. And it's very much my authentic self, creating memories with my wife and child that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. And then I would say, yeah, a couple of weeks later, it's very much the literature that you recommend. I think that actually is a key part for me, has been a key part for me in just generating habit and generating an understanding. They're really, I know at the beginning you recommend two books in particular, or audio books, which is what I
Mm.
chose to do because my,
Yeah.
my day is just very busy. So the audio books, I could just listen to them on the train. And um, it's funny, you find yourself nodding along to them first of all, because
That
you're like,
was
yeah,
me.
that's
That's
me.
me. Yeah,
That's
very
me. That's
relatable.
absolutely me. They're
Very
very
relatable.
relatable. And they come at it from two very different angles, and it's lovely to have that. Actually, one quite emotive, one's a little bit more scientific, but I don't want to use that word in a sense because it might put some people off. But it's just very well done, and it's
Yeah.
extremely consumable, right? You're like, ah, I've got to go to work, but I want to listen to in the next chapter. Um, and those things, because they come at it from two angles, I think that they generally will talk to a vast
Mm,
majority of people in a way that they will go, gosh, I really need to take note of this, or wow, that's absolutely my experience, or brilliant, this really reaffirms what I'm doing. And once you've got that mindset, which is what it's developing, I think that's a very powerful thing that will just continue with you. It's really your choice, but mindset gives you the background, gives you that foundation where choice is very much easier to make, right?
yeah,
And I
definitely.
think that's it.
When you think about the last 15 weeks, 100 odd days that we've worked together
Mm,
versus where you tried taking a break in the past before, what's the difference? Speaking quite honestly, what do you think
yeah,
coaching brings to taking a break from alcohol that doing it on your own doesn't? What are people actually paying for?
yeah,
And what actually moves the dial from, okay, it's,
yeah,
I'm gonna take, it's dry January, I'm gonna take a month off alcohol. And I'm
yeah.
just gonna do what everybody else does. Maybe you get
Heard
two or
that
three
before.
weeks in and it starts to get really difficult. You think, oh, I can't do this anymore. What's different about working with me?
Yeah, I mean, I've probably got this a few angles actually. Don't shed a tear. One of it's partly because I'm quite what's the word, emotional person in a sense. So I need to connect with someone and that communicates in a way that really works for me. I think a lot of people would say, they enjoyed certain subjects at school because the teacher was great. They enjoyed certain sports at school because the teacher was brilliant. I think it's a bit like coaching in anything. Like if you're going to learn a skill, you need to find the way that works for you. And usually that's a communication. So I'm learning Japanese at the moment. The Japanese teacher or the material I'm reading or the podcast I'm listening to needs to be attuned to the way that I learn, that I enjoy learning. I think that your style, first of all, just talking about you as an individual, I could tell from the pre-meeting that we had before we decided to work together
Mm,
that you're absolutely the communicator that was going to be the right coach for the way that I would have most most opportunity to make the most out of it, right? So that's the first part. Second thing I think that the same for anybody learning a skill is experience. You're buying into somebody or a thing or a product or whatever that has got experience behind it. That can be accreditation, that could be someone who's been there and has done it. That can be someone who's been there and has done it for other people. You tick a lot of those boxes,
I've got all
James, in
three
a
of those.
sense. Yeah, you've done all right there, haven't you?
Got all three
But
of
that's
those.
reality, right? If you're doing it alone and it's not working, a very, very powerful thing, I think, is to go and seek experience. And people have that for therapy and things like this. But in this situation, it's very much experience. You want somebody who's got accreditation and knows what they're doing. So the difference for me was very much easily defined as those two things. It's a great communicator that resonated with me. That's a very personal thing, but a non-personal thing that is very established and very, very clear to everybody is the experience that you bring. You have a method which is refined through your own research that would take me months, if not years, to achieve, and to have somebody to bubble it all down into a very workable method, into a very obviously a method that works for many people, not just myself. I know that you have a number of clients who are extremely happy and continue to be so.
Yeah,
That's what's different.
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. On the subject of other clients, actually, obviously you're part of our Sunday social community. So
Yeah, when I have time. Yeah.
for anyone, it's quite difficult for you because obviously the time difference. But
Yeah,
for anyone who's listening, we
I
have
love it.
a group it's kind of group coaching on a Sunday, but really it's more of a celebration of what's happening because I think most
Mm.
people go into 100 days alcohol free because they feel that it's something that they need to do and they think this is going to be really, really tough. But the reality is, and back me up on this, Nick, speak on behalf of everybody else,
Yeah,
everyone thoroughly enjoys the
it's
experience.
unbelievable.
It's not
Yeah.
miserable. It's
Yeah.
not anywhere near as hard as you think it is.
So
Effort is
heartwarming.
involved,
Yeah.
but it's so we get everybody together, everybody on my
Yeah.
program, and on a Sunday morning we'll get together, and we've also got a WhatsApp group where people are constantly
Yeah.
communicating all week long, giving each
Unbelievable.
other encouragement,
Yeah.
celebrating all the wins, sharing. You know, I got up at 7 o'clock and went for a run. I wasn't doing that a
Yeah.
month ago, and all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff, and sharing alcohol-free drinks that they found,
It's
and it's such a joyous space. And how have you found that? How have you found that's added something
Ah,
to the
so
one-to-one
it's so
coaching?
genuine, and I think it's so lovely to have again, having some people who have gone through the same experience as you, people who understand maybe some of the challenges that you were facing, and um, it's really easy to be open in that group. And obviously, I'm speaking at it from my perspective, the type of person I am, but the group themselves, as I said to you the other day, it's like they went through high school together, they went through college together, they kept in touch. You know, it's not the case at all, right? Obviously, it's not the
No.
case at all. We didn't know each other from the beginning, but um, I think it's really really heartwarming to have that at the start of my day. It is. I wake up and I can be on a commuting in the morning. I can see these pictures of people who've just gone out for their run
50
or
missed
their
messages.
biking. Yes, and then some sometimes. But and it's always just such good natured, and everyone is so genuinely happy. There's
Yeah.
just a genuine happiness
It's
that
infectious, isn't it? It really is
is
infectious.
so infectious. Because it's not, it's not something that everybody gets to see or feel that often in their life. I understand that the trials and tribulations of working hard and life in general.
Mm.
To have such a group where it's so genuine, every message is just
Yeah.
brilliant, right?
It's a great, I mean,
And
ultimately, sorry, you go.
no, no, and I was just going to say, if when you join the Sunday social, which I've done a couple of times, and you see people in their own relaxed atmosphere with a smile on their face, laid back. I mean, talking openly as well about some of the things they face, but talking about it because they genuinely really really happy to share, and they're really really engaged with other people's feedback on it, and we ask each other questions and sort of it was great for me as I was maybe at day 50 or something. I seem to remember I
Mm.
probably started that. And it allowed me to ask questions, right? And to ask about the literature and to ask people about, what are their key takeaways? Because going through it with other people, and a bit like you said, you asked me earlier, what's the difference doing it yourself, doing it with a coach? It's also, that group atmosphere for me added another dimension. Because you're talking to people who are also on their day 70 or day 30 or whatever it may be, and you can connect on a very common topic and get really, really, really wonderful stories out of it
It is
and see
nice.
how happy people are. Yeah,
I
so
think
brilliant.
I'm always keen to, whenever I talk about the Sunday social to people, I'm always keen to stress, and I feel like I always need to say this, is that it is not AA. It's not a group of people going, "Oh, my life is so miserable. I
Yeah,
can't drink. It's awful."
my name's
It's a group
Dick.
of people who are thriving, who are on a personal growth journey. And as you know, everybody who I work with, like yourself, Nick, successful professional, it's a nice family,
Mm, mm,
and I think when I started drinking, I didn't have anything like that. And I think being around other people and seeing other people who are just thriving as a result of taking a break from the booze is really life affirming and really gives you so much positive reinforcement that what you're doing is, yeah,
yeah,
I'm definitely doing this for the right reasons. Because you
yeah,
can doubt yourself sometimes, but when you see other people doing it, it just amplifies what you're doing, I think. And
yeah.
yeah, thank you so
I,
much for kind of contributing
no,
to.
not at all. I come off those calls because usually I take them in a different room to my wife and kid because they're still up. I come off those calls and first thing my wife goes, "How was it?" And I'm just smiling. I'm beaming. She knows.
That's
Oh, you've
great.
had a good call. Yeah, it's
Well,
not just me that's saying that.
you mentioned there, about Mika and May, your wife
Mm,
and daughters there.
mm.
What are the? I mean, I know that's been an absolutely central thing for you of this, alcohol-free adventure that you've been on.
Yeah.
How do you reflect on that with regards to the difference that it's made to your family life?
Yeah, I mean, it's been present for them is just been fantastic. I think my wife would be the first to say that she's just seen such a difference in what I bring home as baggage from when I used to drink to now when I don't. But the that kind of that's just the moment in time from when I was drinking. But the other days, just in general, I'm just waking up not in a bad mood, never having a hangover face, and just with a bit of a spring in my step. So she's always complimentary, and she said, "I'm so proud of you. You know, having your wife say that to you on something that, is deep. It was deeply important for me to
Mm.
get out of where I was and to change, and for someone to say, "I'm so proud of you that you love and respect." It's yeah, there's no better feeling than that too. I'm gonna cry. No, but it's yeah, in a very real state. I could tell it was such a problem for her, but she kept a lot inside. I could see that those nights that I would come back and start conversations that were negative. I was very negative when I was a drinker.
Uh-huh.
To never have a conversation like that with my wife, to disappoint her on such a silliness. Um, yeah, just how lovely to be that person for her. And obviously, my daughter's very young; she's only one, so I don't want her to have any lasting impressions of dad shouting at mum. Or I wasn't really that type of person, but you could imagine if I continued to drink, you never know what these kind of things can create at home. So to have her only ever knowing a dad who's brilliant and around, and we wrote it down on the seesaw, be a role model for her, and
Yeah.
that's never in doubt now, and it's just never in doubt, and that's a great thing to have. So yeah, every reason to
I mean,
continue.
that's yeah. So that brings me on to my last point, actually. When I ask everybody to complete like a very brief questionnaire at the beginning and before we start, one of the
Okay.
questions I ask is, what's your ideal outcome from coaching? Is it to kind of cut down and moderate? Is it to take a break? Is it
Yeah.
to get control back, or is it to stop altogether? And you put somewhere between get control back and maybe stop
Yeah.
altogether. You weren't quite sure. And I think,
Yeah.
I think you put that an idea, your ideal outcome would be to be able to take it or leave it. But
Yeah. Make
that's
a choice.
obviously there's been a shift in your thought
Mm,
process along that way because
mm.
you've gone past 100 days. I don't believe you've got any plans to go back to drinking in any
None
capacity.
whatsoever.
So,
None
and I'll be
whatsoever.
honest, that what you put down at the beginning is what the vast majority of people put. Yeah,
Ah,
one of the
okay.
reasons why I use the language take a break from alcohol and not stop drinking is because most people are like, oh, hang on a minute, I don't want to stop drinking altogether. That's way too terrifying. I just want to get control back, thanks.
I
But
understand that.
most people come into it with that desire. But what's happened to you is what happens to the vast majority of people. Somewhere around the middle, something changes, and they're like,
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to go back to it.
Yeah.
This is just too good.
Yeah.
So what? So is that? Well, first of all, is that true for you? And how do you view that now? How do you view getting control back, take it or leave it versus I think I'm fine as I am, thanks. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, extremely me. I remember the take it or leave it probably appearing during one of our day. I can't remember, middle of day 50, day 40, day 50. But I remember being very happy to say, yeah, I went back to one of these beer places that has all these fridges, like 12 fridges, like full of these beers. And I said I sort of had a test for myself, and I think you didn't show concern. You were like, you
I
sure
was a
that's a
bit
good
like, whoa,
idea?
steady on.
Do you want to do that really right now? But I did. I wanted to make sure that because, I said I have a bit of a connection to some of these people in the brewing industry that I could, go in and not be tempted. So I went, okay, I'll go down there tonight with the 12 fridges and see how I feel. And it was just brilliant. I just felt no emotion whatsoever walking past the 12 fridges. Like, look, I used to look at the labels and study them all and sort of think, oh, that's a nice label. Maybe I'll try that beer because of the label. Just sort of looking at it, just nonplus, not really any emotion towards it either way. And I think that was a take it or leave it moment, and that was sort of day
Mm,
50. And I'm sort of, now in a situation of say 100 days where I've gone through that. I walk my usual routes. There can be as many pubs as you like on that road. I'm not remotely interested. I probably just more sort of smile as I look it through the windows, going, okay, yeah, interesting. But I'm happy just that I'm on my way home and I get to see the park, and I'm going to go do that and maybe grab an iced coffee at the end of the road, and that'll be nice. And um, it's really interesting how it has shifted. Yeah, I don't want people to sort of see, oh, it's such a dramatic and all of this, but the reality is it's been slow, gradual, and it's been really, really interesting to have, reaffirmed like reading and talking to you about some of the things that I went and worked at a beer event, if you remember, during this
I
100
do, yeah.
days. Then it was something that I said to you, look, I've got this coming up. It's something I really want to do. I've committed to these guys that I'll do it, but I won't be drinking. And you were really supportive about it. And you said, yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing how it goes. And it just went brilliant. I had so much fun
Yeah, I remember.
speaking Japanese, serving the beers and things like this, but there was never a temptation. And I've just gotten into that state where there's a running club attached to it. I never would have found out really or done that if I hadn't sort of seen beer differently. I would have only ever gone there to drink, but because there was a running club, it helps me still to reconnect into these guys who I've just gotten to know and enjoy and like. So I now do a different side to it. I go to the pub to have a chat with him to go for a run. It's like, how different is that to versus, I go to the pub to buy a ticket of 10 beers and I try and sink them all in one night. Right. So for me it's a very easy. I'm so happy with where I am and don't really want that to change. So
That's
why would
awesome.
I why would I put
That's it.
myself in a different
That's it,
position?
right?
That's it.
Live,
Yeah.
that's the meaning of life, to be happy, and I just think
Yeah.
you've done
Well,
that. I mean, no one's
part of it.
you've no one's saying you can never drink again, but you've got the freedom of choice, and that's the choice that you've made,
Just
and that's
I'm
what pretty much everybody makes who
yeah,
goes through
I
these 100
know what
days.
my headspace was like before, and I know that I'm a much happier person. My body language is different. My wife is extremely pleased with where things are. So, um, it's very easy when you got feedback like that to say, carry on as you are.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer, right? So the last thing
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, just before I let you go, is there's probably somebody watching this right now, who's maybe in their 40s, maybe their 50s, good career, nice family, got pretty
Okay.
much all of the areas of their lives dialed in, but they're also drinking most evenings, maybe a few beers, maybe a couple of glasses of wine, waking up
Mm,
at 3 o'clock in the morning, telling themselves
mm,
that something, needs to change, but they don't really know how to go about it. It's a problem perhaps that's been on their
yeah.
mind for a number of years, and they just don't really know how to break the cycle. Perhaps they've tried dry January before, but it hasn't stuck, and end up back where they started. What kind of advice would you give to that person who's thinking about embarking on a journey of either working with me or taking 100 days off? What kind of advice would you give?
Yeah. Well, it's great that you said this person's already realized that, they tried dry January, it didn't work or something, or they've come to a realization. I think the waking up at 3 a.m. I can absolutely understand because my sleep pattern when I was heavily drinking, on some of the days, it was dreadful, and I can totally understand
Me
that
too.
waking up feeling and going, what am I doing? So first of all, you've got a realization, self-realization. That's a great first step, right?
Absolutely.
What would I say about someone who's thinking about working with you is a little bit like I said before. The experience that you're working with is so powerful. Like I tried by myself, and I realized, and I mentioned it earlier about how I tried by myself, and I just realized that to do it with somebody else who's got experience with a method and a process. And when we talk about experience, it's those three things we sort of said, accreditations, experience through themselves. And I know that you have your own story, James, and it's really
Hmm.
powerful listening to that. And you're excellent in how you take a matter of fact approach about it. That was you, and working and helping others, and it's that, isn't it? So, what I say to that person is, you may have these reservations that we talked about, losing out on things like this. The reality, it will tell you over time that you're actually gaining so much more. It's not easy to see that at the moment, but it will come. I think it's obvious that you should do it. Get invested with somebody who can help you in a way that you cannot by yourself.
Mm.
Um, but as you did with me, you did sort of a first, let's have a chat and see if we can connect and if it's the right thing for you. And that was brilliant for me because it just reaffirmed that you were the individual I wanted to work with, and that is an important part of it. You need to, for me, I needed to at least make sure that the communication that we would have
Yeah.
was going to be on and in a way that would move me, motivate me, make sure that it's working for me. And within that first sort of minute of us having a chat, it was like, okay, I'm in. Right,
Yeah,
if he'll have me, I mean, where's the line?
I think if I'm honest actually as well, when we do the first introductory meetings, I'm also sussing out the person as well because we
Oh
coach
yeah,
we do 10 hours of coaching. I don't want to sit on a call for 10 hours with somebody that I've got no connection with. So it's actually, I like to that's
all
actually one of
right,
the
I made a
that,
list.
you made the list. That's one of the I mean that's one of the benefits also of our Sunday group is that every single person
Yeah,
who's in it, I personally really like because they're people that because I don't
yeah,
work with everybody
people.
because I think I don't really gel with that person. But when people that I really connect with, and you build
Mm,
friendships, and that's really important. And I'm sure that we will remain friends. After after this.
yeah,
So look,
yeah.
Nick, thank you so much for doing this. It's I
Oh, my
really
pleasure.
really appreciate it, and I've thoroughly enjoyed
Great fun.
working. I know you're going to stay part of the community as well.
Yeah,
So
very
we'll
much.
still very
You can't
much
get
be
rid
in
of me.
touch. No, you're good, not going anywhere. So yeah, so thanks again, and
Yeah,
all the best with
thanks to
whatever
you.
comes next. Thanks, Nick.
Brilliant. So
See you
much. Thank
later.
you.
Bye now.
Cheers.